Welcome back to the Top Notch Documentaries YouTube channel. In this episode of the serial killer series, I'll be going over the crimes of a disturbed killer called Jason Allen Thornburg. I hope you enjoy. This grisly serial killer series episode took place in the state of Texas in the cities of Fort Worth, Arlington and Euless, which all fall under Tarrant County. It would all begin in May 2021 with a suspicious death investigation at a home in Fort Worth. Police became suspicious given the unusual cause of death at the home of Jason Allen Thornburg and his roommate Mark Jewell. Jason had miraculously avoided any injury, which had police on alert. He had conveniently left for work just minutes before the explosion. Fortunate timing saved his life, and it all sounded way too good to be true. The Tarrant County coroner conducted an autopsy, but it was pretty much pointless. Given Mark's body having been blown up, an accurate cause of death was not possible to determine. Unfortunately, the information that police would later retrieve would only bring the event back to mind, as it would later be looked into once again. Police knew that something wasn't right at the time, and the future events surrounding Jason would only prove the police theory right at a later date. Jason must have been involved. For the moment, with no evidence to tie Jason to the roommate's death, despite the obvious suspicious circumstances, nothing could be done. Jason wasn't charged with anything relating to the event and had to be let go. Jason moved into a motel in July 2021. The Mid-City Inn is located in Euless, another city just north of Arlington. Why he moved into this motel is unknown. His home might have been badly damaged by the explosion, or Jason could have been there for any other reason. Jason was religious, and this will come up as an important detail later. He sounded like he was obsessed with the Bible and passed out church flyers for a church back in Fort Worth. He also had a Bible verse on display on his Facebook account. Let's get into some background of Jason Allen Thornburg. Jason comes from a Native American background in his Navajo, which is the second largest Native American tribe in the southwestern US. He has lived in Arizona and Montana and had some misdemeanor charges out of Arizona, Texas and Oklahoma prior to these events. The most serious recent charge that Jason was convicted for comes from November 2018 when he evaded arrest with a vehicle in Texas. He was given 2 years prison time for this evading charge, but was released in May 2019 under mandatory supervision. This would come to a close in June of 2020. Jason was now residing at the Mid-City Inn Motel and was seemingly living a normal existence. On the surface, he was a religious man with little signs pointed toward a violent side. Unfortunately, he ended up with a new roommate. David Lareras would end up being the new roommate of Jason. If he had known about the demise of the previous roommate, then he might have called into question his religious motel roommate. Highly doubt that Jason told him about his history. What Jason was getting up to is uncertain, but motel residents would relay details of an unknown female also living in Jason's room. It was around this time that a bad smell was picked up by some of the residents of the motel. The origin of the smell came from the area of Jason's room. A man had a short conversation with Jason, whom he called JT, about the bad smell. I said, JT, do you smell that? It's down here by your room, by this room. Jason responded with, yeah, I think somebody peed underneath the stairs. The man then said, it don't smell like urine to me. It would be Tuesday, September 21st of 2021, late into the evening. Jason, wearing a full workman's bodysuit, left his motel room carrying several large containers. He placed them into his Jeep Grand Cherokee and then drove away from the motel. The next day now, and it's now the early morning hours, Jason continues to come and go with the same types of large containers back and forth from his car to his motel room. He spends hours doing this. As the sun began to rise over Euless, a call for a reported dumpster fire had firefighters rushing over to the 3100 block of Bonnie Drive. They were unprepared for what they located. 3 people would be found in the dumpster, all having been what was described as heavily dismembered. They had then been set alight. Police would look at local CCTV surveillance videos to try to determine who the killer was, and it paid off. Footage from opposite the dumpster had captured the suspect vehicle parked right next to the dumpster on the night prior to the body's discoveries. The car was determined to be a Grand Jeep Cherokee, and through looking through registered owners of the same vehicle in Tarrant County, one name stuck out. The same 41-year-old suspected of being involved in the suspicious death of Mark earlier that year. Jason owned the same type of car and he was quickly brought into custody on Monday, September 27th. surprisingly willing to open up to investigators. He was arrested at his electrician's apprentice job site. Investigators were surprised when Jason admitted to killing the 3 people in what was described as intimate detail. The victims were later named as David Lureras, Lauren Phillips and Maricruz Mathis. The confession to these murders shocked the investigators, and one homicide detective made the comment that, "In my time in the homicide unit, we don't have anything that resembles this." For whatever reason, Jason felt like David should be sacrificed. He sliced David's throat and then dismembered him in his bathtub. He had hidden David's dismembered body in garbage bags at first, before deciding that large Rubbermaid tubs would work better. Days following this murder, a woman would arrive at Jason's motel room. He proceeded to murder her in the same manner and then dismembered her also. 2 more days went by before another woman showed up at Jason's apartment. He stabbed her but ended up strangling her because she resisted. He then dismembered her. These 2 female victims, Lauren and Maricruz, were acquaintances of Jason, and I'm not 100% certain if Lauren or Maricruz was the first or second female victim that Jason took the life of. Lauren had been given a church leaflet flyer by Jason, and that is supposedly the reason why they ended up becoming acquaintances. At the time that Lauren was murdered, she had needed a place to stay, and so sadly she turned to Jason. The motive is still murky, but Jason was adamant that he was being called to commit sacrifices. This sacrifice theme then led to Jason admitting to killing his roommate in May, which had already been suspected of being behind. Jason sacrificed Mark by cutting his throat before uncapping the gas line and lighting a candle. He then drove to work and would later speak at Mark's funeral. The confession didn't stop there, and Jason then admitted to killing his girlfriend in Arizona. Tanya Begay from New Mexico went missing whilst on a road trip to Arizona with Jason. She'd been reported missing in 2017, and it's unclear whether he was ever a suspect in her disappearance. Jason now sits in the Tarrant County Jail awaiting trial on capital murder of multiple persons. He faces the death penalty, but for some reason he has a bond which is set at $1 million, and hopefully no one pays it. Jason had actually wanted to become a missionary right after he blew up his roommate, and it would seem like this is now off the table. Jason shouldn't have been on the street, and it's likely that he has severe mental illness problems. Still, the sacrifice excuse is used a lot in cases like this, and we have to wait and see if it's being used to obtain an insanity defence or whether Jason is truly severely mentally ill. Police are combing missing persons and other homicide cases to determine whether Jason has taken the lives of any other people. Hopefully, if there are more victims out there, then families can get some answers. This has been the Serial Killer Series episode of Jason Allen Thornburg. As always, thank you for watching.